He signed the form, that's it. One signature, and before his attorney ever got involved, investigators had already walked off his boat with the most damaging piece of evidence in his entire case. I want to tell you exactly what he should have done instead. But first, you need to understand why people make this mistake, because once you hear it, you'll never make it yourself. That man is George Pino. His case recently became one of the most talked about boating accident prosecutions here in South Florida. But I'm not here to talk about his case specifically. I'm here to make sure you never find yourself in the same position he did. Because what happened to George Pino happens every single day. So here's the situation most people don't know they're in. The Fourth Amendment protects you from unreasonable searches and seizures. This means that the police cannot search your car, your boat, your home, or your bags without one of three things. They need either a warrant, probable cause, or your consent. And the third one is where a lot of people destroy their own cases. A consent search is simple. An officer asks, "Hey, can I take a look?" And you say, "Of course, officer." And that's it. No warrant needed, no court order, no legal standard to meet. You've just handed them everything. And here's the part that shocks people every single time. Officers are not required to tell you that you can say no. Not legally, not ever. So unlike your Miranda rights, which they're required to be read to you before a custodial interrogation, there is zero obligation to tell you that you have the option to refuse a consent search. They just ask, and most people say yes. And most people have no idea that they even had a choice. Now, I'd like to paint a picture for you, because there is a reason most people will consent immediately without thinking twice. Because in the moment, saying yes makes complete sense. Think about what that scenario feels like. An officer approaches. Maybe you've just been in an accident. You're shaking. Your mind is racing. And the officer is calm, professional, maybe even friendly. And they say, "Hey, do you mind if we take a look?" Your brain does the math instantly. Well, if I say no, I look guilty. And if I say no, it's going to get worse. But yet none of that is true, but it feels 100% true in the moment. And that's exactly why consent searches are one of the most effective tools law enforcement has. That's what happened to George Pino. He survived a horrific boat crash on Biscayne Bay. His defense team later argued he suffered a traumatic brain injury. He was almost certainly in shock. When an officer hands you a form in that state, what do? You sign it. Because signing feels like cooperation. It feels like the right thing to do. But here's the distinction I want you to take away from this video. Cooperation and consent are two completely different things. You can be cooperative, polite, calm, giving basic information, your name, right, your age, without giving anyone permission to search through your life and look for evidence that they can and will use against you. We're about halfway through this video, and I haven't told you yet what George Pino should have said. I'm going to give you the exact words verbatim in about 2 minutes. Stay with me, because what comes right before, that's the part that most attorneys won't explain. But let's kill 4 myths right now. So the first myth is that refusing is illegal. It's not. You can't be arrested for saying no to a search. It's not obstruction. It's not resisting an officer. It's your constitutional right. Exercising it is completely lawful. And so number 2, that they won't search you anyway. And that's wrong, because in this one matters. If an officer has probable cause, specific articulable facts that suggest a crime, they can search without your consent. And if they get a warrant, same thing. Saying no doesn't make you untouchable. But what it does do is it forces the police to meet a legal standard of evidence. And that standard becomes critical in court. Number 3, it makes you look guilty. And an officer may push back. They might say, "Hey, if you have nothing to hide, why don't you let us search?" But that's a tactic. They're allowed to lie to you. They're allowed to trick you. But you are allowed to calmly say, "I don't consent to a search." And period. The end. You don't owe them an explanation at all. Number 4, and this is the one that I really need you to hear. If you consent and they find something, that evidence comes in clean in a trial. There is no challenge. There is no suppression. Your attorney's hands are tied before you ever walk into the courtroom. But if they search without consent, without a valid warrant, without probable cause, your attorney can fight to have that evidence thrown out entirely. That's called a motion to suppress, and that's one of the many types of motions to suppress that we have. It can completely change the outcome of a case. Now, George Pino's GPS data came in clean. He signed the form. No suppression argument available. His defense team had to fight the substance of what the GPS showed. instead of whether it should have been admitted at all. And that's a completely different fight and a much harder one for the defense team to fight. Now, I want to speak directly to the boaters watching this because there's a common misconception here. A lot of people assume that FWC and the Coast Guard have an automatic right to search your vessel. And yes, federal law does allow the Coast Guard to conduct safety inspections, but there's a clear legal difference between a safety inspection and a criminal investigation. Here's the thing about a serious boating accident in Florida. The moment FWC arrives, you may already be in criminal investigation territory. These are trained law enforcement officers, and they're to build a case from the second they make contact. The questions they ask, the form they hand you, all of it matters to them. So before you ever leave the dock, you have to know this. If you're involved in a serious accident on the water and investigators show up, ensure everyone's safety first, always. That's the law and it's the right thing to do. But when they start asking detailed questions about what happened or ask to search your vessel, well, wait a minute, that's the moment. Here it is. This is what George Pino should have said. This is what you should say. If an officer asks to search anything, your boat, your car, your bag, your home, it's, I do not consent to a search, period. That's it. Short, calm, and clear. If they start asking detailed questions about what happened, it's very direct. I'd like to speak with my attorney before I answer any questions. 2 sentences. Simple. And those 2 sentences have protected more people than I can count. Here's what you don't say. You don't say, well, I have nothing to hide. The second those words leave your mouth, you've practically consented. Psychologically, socially, you've made it almost impossible to then turn around and say no without appearing suspicious. So don't say it. Don't think it either. When they ask, and they will, why don't you want to consent to a search? Just the answer is, I want to speak with my attorney. I want to speak with an attorney. Again, simple, short, sweet. You're not being hostile. You're not accusing anyone of anything. You're using your constitutional rights that exist for this exact situation. The George Pino case made headlines, but what happened on that dock happens every single day here in South Florida to regular people in stressful moments making quick decisions about their rights without fully understanding the legal consequences. Your right to refuse a consent search exists whether you're on the water, on I-95, or standing in your own driveway. Know it, use it, and make sure the people you care about know it too. If you found this helpful, subscribe. Share this with someone else who might need to hear it. We're here every week breaking down Florida criminal laws in plain English. And if law enforcement has already conducted a search and you're not sure what your options are, reach out. Give us a call. Depending on how that search happened, there still may be something we can do. I'm Adam Rossen, and I'll see you on the next one.